Namaskar. I wish all of you a happy financial year 22-23. We are in the middle of Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, marking 75 years of independence. During these celebrations, the entire country is setting up its strategy for the future while taking inspiration from the past. Income Tax Department too welcomes this financial year with new hopes, brighter aspirations and greater resolve. Financial year 21-22 was remarkable. Department forged ahead with its reform agenda. Its twin objectives were ease of tax compliance and ease of doing business. The taxpayers have reposed bountiful trust in the department by participating in the nation's growth story. I compliment our IRS officers across the country who have ably led the department in this period of transformation. I appreciate the department's officials who have diligently and untiringly administered their duties. During financial year 21-22, we achieved the highest ever direct tax collection figures recorded by the Income Tax Department in its history. Rebounding of the Indian economy, coupled with the reforms within and outside the Income Tax Department, has led to record direct tax collections. It would be of interest to know that for assessment year 21-22, also a total of 7.14 crore returns were filed, out of which 6.37 crore returns were verified by the taxpayers within time, and out of the total returns verified, 5.66 crore returns have already been processed. Let me also give you a glimpse of the legislative reform measures introduced in the last financial year. With a view to bring tax certainty, the imposition of the retrospective tax liability on certain categories of the income introduced in 2012 was nullified. It was also provided that under certain conditions, no tax demands shall be raised in future on the basis of the 2012 amendment. Approximately 1,17,000 crore of existing demand is tied up in these specific cases. I am sure our PCCITs are taking all possible measures to bring meaningful closure to these demands. You are aware that the approving panel for the implementation of the general anti-avoidance rules under the Income Tax Act was constituted in the last financial year. The GAR Secretariat has also been set up in New Delhi. There is a need to make officers who are engaged in assessment work aware of these provisions and their usage in relation to GAR. While scrutinizing cases, please remember the necessity of using anti-avoidance provisions judiciously and never to employ them indiscriminately. Finance Act 2021 introduced the concept of dispute resolution committees through Section 245MA in order to internally resolve litigation through the institution of checks and balances. The DRC scheme is also being notified shortly. Finance Act 2021 also introduced the Board for Advanced Rulings. In September 2021, taking the agenda of tax certainty ahead, CBDT notified the constitution of 3 such boards, 2 headquartered in New Delhi and 1 in Mumbai. In order to operationalize the e-settlement scheme 2021, which was notified in September 2021, CBDT has set up interim boards of settlement in Delhi, Kolkata, Mumbai and Chennai. All of these administrative mechanisms have been created keeping in mind the ease of doing business. These are all manned by senior and experienced officers of the department. Going ahead, I am sure they will function with efficiency and effectiveness and fulfill the objectives set out for them. With an aim to reduce litigation, Section 158AB has been introduced in the Act through Finance Act 2022. The section provides for a collegium of officers to advise the appropriate authorities to not to file an appeal before the tribunal or high court in relevant cases. This would apply in a case of a taxpayer in whose case any question of law arising is identical with a question of law already raised in its own case or in the case of any other taxpayer and is pending before a jurisdictional high court or the Supreme Court. I urge the field formations to proactively take up the implementation of this reform measure. This will bring real impact in managing litigation numbers. This will also reinforce the confidence that the taxpayers have reposed in the department's reform agenda. The concept of updated return of income has been introduced in the Income Tax Act for the first time through Finance Act 2022. Taxpayers are given the benefit of filing an updated return within 24 months from the end of the relevant assessment year. This is not an isolated measure. but has to be seen in conjunction with the e-verification scheme notified in November 2021. Under the e-verification scheme, information in AIS is being validated, assessed and acted upon. I exhort all officers to spread awareness about the updated return as widely as possible. This provision would provide additional time to taxpayers to rectify any incorrect disclosure or omission in respect of their income tax liability. This will also reduce the compliance burden from the taxpayer's point of view and the cost of collection from the department's point of view, and also promote voluntary compliance. Provision for the taxation of virtual digital assets, including cryptocurrencies, has been introduced in the Finance Act 2022. The transfer of any virtual digital asset shall now be taxed at a flat rate of 30%. In order to implement the same effectively, TDS mechanism has also been provided for. VDA is an area where lot is at stake both for the department and for the sector as well. A well-administered tax regime would help stabilize the sector and establish meaningful national regulation. As a step towards bringing clarity and consistency to several provisions, including those related to charitable trusts and institutions, several amendments have been made through the Finance Act 2022. Underlying idea is to clear administrative confusion and vexatious and sometimes contradictory interpretations of existing law. To bring real change and put in practice the vision of legislative reform, administrative reform is imperative. This has been done in financial year 21-22. To make the faceless scheme of the department more effective and efficient, several important decisions have been taken from time to time. The draft assessment order is now being returned to the same assessment unit after review instead of a different assessment unit. The procedure allowing the taxpayer to participate in a video conference has been further streamlined to ensure transparency and ease of compliance. Under the faceless appeal scheme too, the review of orders passed by the Commissioner Appeal has been done away with. I am sure these measures shall further smoothen the nationwide implementation of the faceless schemes. Let me assure you that CBDT recognizes all the genuine concerns received from the field formations and is working proactively to resolve the same. Let me also add that CBDT has been working in a focused manner to address the HR issues in the department. We have made conscious efforts to speed up the holding of the DPCs to ensure timely promotions in all cadres. I also exhort all officers and officials to take advantage of training programs that are organized periodically and upskill themselves to keep pace with the fast changing methods of tax evasion. Enforcement is one of the most important pillars of the Income Tax Department for deterrence and improved compliance. Investigation wing of the department over the years has become one of the premier investigation agencies of the country alongside SFIO, ED, IB and the CBI. Department has been collaborating with other regulators like the RBI and SEBI to uncover frauds affecting other verticals of the financial ecosystem. We have with us today two incredibly crucial legislations, namely the Black Money Act and the Prohibition of the Benami Transactions Act, and effective action through these legislations would help realize the true legislative intent behind these acts. India is a large, diverse and young nation. As economy expands and economic prosperity surge across the country, it is the responsibility of the Income Tax Department to improve and strengthen the tax literacy of the country, a subject which has often been relegated to the sidelines. I urge the PCCIT to take the lead in widening the tax base across the country. This is where the strength of the department lies. We have a pan-India presence. The PCCIT and their teams should actively engage with the existing and prospective taxpayers within their regions, intensifying their outreach in Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities and towns. The DGIT administration and taxpayer services has already charted out and disseminated a detailed work plan and of outreach over the next 3 months. With the support of our field formations, I am sure we will play the leadership role in enhancing tax literacy in the country. Achievements of the department this past financial year would not have been possible but for the dedicated and steadfast focus of all our teams across the country. I wish to place on record my appreciation to all who worked tirelessly despite the surge in COVID cases last year. About time also, we introspect into what we did right last year and replicate that for our successful implementation in the future. There, of course, were delays and setbacks to many processes we set out to achieve. Learning from mistakes is the first step towards achieving our ultimate goals. Let us all join hands together again to drive the nation to newer heights in the financial year 2022-23. Jai Hind.